Hey guys, welcome back to the next video. In this video, we are going to do hands-on for your replication controller. Now, before we proceed to the hands-on, just want to give you some introduction. So this is your YAML file, and this is the same file which we'll be writing down on our command prompt. Do remember that what we are going to configure is replica as 3, as in like 3 replicas are going to be spinned upon the worker 1 and worker 2. And what is going to be spinned upon is this container over here, which is an Nginx image, which will be spinning up as part of the container inside a pod. So there will be 3 pods over here, and the name of this particular replica controller is going to be Nginx controller. And the name of the pod is going to be, as you can see over here, this is the label of the pod, which is going to have app Nginx. And that's basically the selector here, which selects the app over here. And this whole kind is going to be, the API is going to be replica controller. That's the API name. Let's go ahead and create a folder called replication controller. Get inside the replication controller. And then here we are going to create a file called rc1.yaml. Now, firstly, we need to make sure that you update the watch command. So here I'm running a watch command with -n1 with coup control. So I've logged into another instance of manager, and I executed the export command, which you know you should do. And then I'm just getting the deployments pods RC and RS. So I'm just going to remove a deploy. I'm not going to do any deployments here. And then replica set also I'm going to remove. And then I'm going to use only replica controller. Now do remember that we spoke about this on another basic class. So here we use scoop CTL API resources. Sorry, there's a typo here. And then grep of replication controller. So replication controller short form is RC. Okay, so that's why we are using RC and pods over here. So that shows us the replication container once it, replication controller once we have created it. Now, in this rc.yaml file, we are going to do API version. We're going to call up API version again. The API version depends on the kind we are going to add over here. Now, if you have questions on that, you can check this. So this is the API version v1. So that's why I put v1 over here. And this is the kind name. So I'll put copy paste the kind name over there. So it needs to be in that particular format. So R should be a capital letter, C should be a capital letter. So then the type metadata. Metadata is nothing data about data, just the name as the metadata here. Nginx controller, that's the name I'm going to give over here. Now, in terms of specs and specifications about this particular replica controller, it's going to have number of replicas as 3, and then how it's going to select using the selector. Now, the same thing which we have, we have not majorly seen about the selectors, which we will see more or less on the next video, next section about the replica set that I'll explain you about the selectors. And then I'll explain about the difference between replica controller and the replica set when it comes to using the selector. I'll tell you about that also. So here I'm giving apps as Nginx. So this is basically how it's going to select. And then at the same level of selector, I'm creating something called template. So now in this template, you're going to give metadata. Under this metadata, you're going to give label. So this is going to be a unique identification for this particular container within this pod. So it's here, it's going to be Nginx. And under the label section, so I'm going to give, under the metadata session, I'm going to give spec, which is going to have my container here. So containers, and then here I'm giving the name of the container here. So it's like a hyphen name colon Nginx. And then here, I'm going to give the image name over here as Nginx colon latest as the tag. Now here is a YAML file which I've just created just now, and this has all the details about the replica controller. The important information we need to give is replica :3. So that's very important. So save and quit this file and apply this file. So coops control apply -f rc1.yaml file. So it's just throwing up an error. So it is talking about v1 replica controller cannot be handled with spec replica. So this must be a typo there. Yeah, I think the typo is the type replica here. It should be replicas. So that's a typo from my end. So let's just apply this. Again, another version. One, it talks about the template, and there must be another typo. All right, so let's just apply it. I fixed the typo, and you can see that replication controller has been created, and out of that you get to see a lot of pods spinning up right now. Now, if you've seen the previous video on the basic session about deleting your pods, now you can know that this pod is not created directly. If you try to delete this pod, it's going to auto-create it because there is there's a requirement that you should have this 3 is desired, and 3 is what it is having currently, and 3 is ready, right? So if you delete any of this pod, then it becomes less. If you see here, ready has become 2, so it basically creates another pod and replace it, and ready becomes 3. So this is basically a replication of your image or your pod, and making sure that it is keeping the desired state as it is. Now you can see that a couple of pods has been deployed on worker 1 and one pod is deployed on worker 2. You can also remove the pod on the worker 1, see how it reacts. Now you can see that it has created this new pod on the worker 2. So this is basically a replication. Now you can scale up and scale down the replication, which I will show you on the next video. Thank you again for watching this video. I'll see you on the next one.